Hello everyone, welcome back to Assetto Corsa Competizione, welcome back to Low Fuel Motorsport, and welcome for the first time to the Coach Dave GT3 Sprint. That's right, I've got a shiny new bronze license after my 2 rookie races in LFM last week, so I'm ready to put it to the test here at Laguna Seca. And what a test it was in qualifying. It absolutely chucked it down. Conditions were really difficult. It was my first experience of driving in the wet weather in low fuel motorsport, but I seemed to cope okay. I've managed to put it 8th on the grid, which is by far my best qualifying performance in low fuel motorsport. Now, whether I can maintain that competitive pace if the track starts to dry out remains to be seen. The forecast for the race does look a lot better. And sure enough, when it came time for the formation lap, out came the sun, so out came the dry tyres. And regular viewers to my Assetto Corsa Competizione series will also notice that I'm driving a different car for the first time. So many of you advised me to ditch the Ferrari, so I've chosen the BMW M4 for this series. Let's see how we get on with it. The lights are about to go green. We're starting from 8th and we're underway. Once again, not the best rolling start for me there. I just didn't quite position myself closely enough to that BMW of Mayo Makovic in front. We're going to be under pressure from another BMW behind, Dario Frescia. We've managed to hold him off, but we have had to take an outside line into T1. There's an Audi on the inside of us. That's the number 8 of Amedeo D'Andrea. Now, D'Andrea was behind us on the grid, so unless we can tuck it back up the inside through this right-hander, we're going to lose at least one position. Yeah, we weren't close enough to D'Andrea there, so we're going to have to tuck back in behind that Audi. And Brandon Renfro in the McLaren also started behind us, so that means we're down to 10th, but we can make that 9th because there was a BMW out in the gravel, and that looked like the number 1 car of Bartosz Jarosewski. So that's going to promote us back up to 9th. Meanwhile, in front, D'Andrea has got past Renfro, so D'Andrea is up to 7th, Renfro down to 8th. And further ahead, it looks like one of the front runners has made a right mess of turn 6. That's Rauch in the Ferrari. He's going to rejoin. I don't think we've got the pace to get around him before we arrive at the corkscrew. Oh, look in the rearview mirror. How close Dario Frescia gets to us there as well. Oh, things got really tight there. That was a nervous moment, but we've survived the corkscrew on lap 1. That's always an achievement in any Laguna Seca race. Now we're chasing Rauch in the Ferrari. Now we know Rauch is quickly. He qualified on the front row. He was 2nd on the grid. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him in a hurry to get back past that bunch of cars in front of him. Speaking of in a hurry, look at the Lamborghini in the rearview mirror. That's Fede Mori. He started down in 17th, so he's had a cracking first lap to be in the top 10. Meanwhile, it feels like we've just got a little bit of extra pace over that Ferrari in front. I'm a bit cautious here. I'm not sure where his braking point is, and I've been caught napping there because it's opened up a gap on the inside for Mori to go through. So that's us down to 10th, and if we're not careful, it might be 11th because Dario Frescia's going to have a look up the inside. We slam the door shut through that right-hander, and we stay, for now, in 10th. So no crashes on lap 1, but there were a couple of off-tracks, both caused by these brutal sausage curbs at Laguna Seca. Bartosz Jarosewski was the first of them to go off, and then a couple of corners later, the Ferrari of Rauch getting it all wrong into turn 6. That sent him out really wide. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get around him before we made it to the corkscrew, so I tucked back in behind the Ferrari, but then got caught out on the brakes into T1 at the start of lap 2. That left a gap for Mori to dive through. Halfway through lap 2, I'm beginning to doubt whether I've got the pace to stick with Mori. He looks pretty rapid. Further ahead, we've got another driver who's made a mess of turn 6 out onto the gravel, just like Rauch was a lap ago. However, it didn't look quite as bad as Rauch's detour. Speaking of Rauch, look at him get his line all wrong into the corkscrew. That Ferrari was a little bit out of shape there, and that has grouped the pack right back together. There's barely a second separating 6th from 10th. Currently we've got Renfro in 6th, D'Andrea in 7th, Rauch in 8th, Mori in 9th, we're in 10th. And it looks like Mori might be sizing up a move up the inside of Rauch into the final turn. He thinks better of it, but yeah, once again, the pack concertina together through that final turn. We're going to start the charge down the start-finish straight to begin lap 3. But so far, so good for us. It's encouraging that we seem to have the pace to be able to challenge for top 10s in this series. Speaking of challenging, look at Mori take a dive up the inside of Rauch into turn 1. He's surely not going to make that stick, but it looks like he has done. I felt for sure Mori was headed to the sand there, but he managed to hold on to it. Rauch tried the switchback. There was a little bit of contact, but yeah, Mori has made the position stick. He's up to 8th. Well, with all the excitement in front of me, I didn't even notice that the gap to the cars behind me grew significantly at the end of that second lap, and that's because of a mistake by the number 13 of Dario Freschi. He runs out wide twice. That allows Papa Diddy and the McLaren to get past, but then watch Freschi here. He just gets too close to the McLaren, taps the rear, and that sends Diddy spinning out. Now I'm going to keep the replay running here because full credit to Freschi. He's going to hold his hands up for the mistake, and he's not going to return to the track until he lets Diddy rejoin first. So he sacrificed his own race there to apologise to Diddy, and that is a gesture we don't see often enough in sim racing. Fair play. Approaching the corkscrew for the third time. We're still in 10th place. However, David Ruiz behind is closing fast. However, in front, look at Brandon Renfrew in the McLaren. He got his line all wrong through the corkscrew. And that's going to give Murray the opportunity to try and tuck it up the inside through the rainy curve. And now Rauch in the Ferrari is going to try and pick up the pieces as well. There's contact. We need to stay well out of the way of this. We just ease off. I'm worried that the two of them were going to stack it there. Just the slightest lift of the throttle has invited David Ruiz to challenge out of nowhere. He slings it up the inside into the final turn. We're under real danger now of losing our 10th position. I had to stay out a little wider than I would have liked coming out of that corner, but we did carry more exit speed, so we're able to stay in front of the Porsche for now. I'm going to be a bit more defensive coming into turn 1. I don't want to repeat the mistake that I made earlier. So I've successfully sealed off the gap that Murray used to get by me a bit earlier, but make no mistake about it, we are in a proper battle now. Well, things started to heat up at the corkscrew when Brandon Renfrew in the McLaren made a complete hash of his line. That invites Murray to dive up the inside for the rainy curve. Murray makes the pass, but then the Ferrari of Rauch tries it as well. There's a bit of contact, both of them on the verge of losing control. We just have to ease back slightly, and that's what invited Ruiz to attack. Halfway through lap 4, we're going to come under attack from Ruiz again on the approach to the corkscrew. Look at him make a move up the inside. We're going to have to give him some space. We don't want to chop his nose off, and more to the point, we don't want to have our rear end taken away, but we managed to hold the position still, but we're having to work really hard to keep that Porsche behind now. He's certainly got some pace. And speaking of pace, I think I've got a bit more of it than this McLaren of Brandon Renfrew in front. Look how quickly we close the gap on the run up to the final corner. In fact, we get a little bit too close. There's no room around the outside. And once again, we've got the Porsche of Ruiz on the inside. It's going to be another drag race down the start-finish straight. Thankfully, my BMW seems to have a little bit more grunt. Again, we're going to hold the position, and again, we're going to have to defend into T1 and close that gap off. But you know what? I think we're going to have to try and get around Renfrew as quickly as we can. It feels like that McLaren is holding us up just a little bit now, and every time it holds us up, we're inviting more pressure from Ruiz. Look how close we are to Renfrew now. We're swarming all over the rear end of that McLaren. And if I can get a good run out of this corner, then maybe an opportunity to sneak up the inside into this upcoming left-hander. We've certainly got the pace. Can we make it stick? We've certainly left it a little bit late to commit to the pass. Thankfully, Renfrew has left us space. We're still on the inside, side by side, coming up the hill. And I'm really worried about coming into this turn 6 too wide, but it's too late to back out, and Renfrew's lost it. Renfrew has crashed out in the rearview mirror, and he seems to have taken a few cars with him. Oh no! I just hope that wasn't my fault. I didn't feel any contact, but I was really worried about going into that turn too wide. But I think we're going to have to check out the replay. Yeah, I wish I'd made the pass stick before we got to turn 6. I was paranoid about that sausage curb on the inside, but at the same time, I was worried about running out wide and drifting into Renfrew's line. Here we go. Was it our fault? Oh no, it wasn't. Look, it was Ruiz who clattered into the rear of Renfrew, and look at the carnage it caused. Well, I said at the time I didn't feel any contact, so I thought I was okay, but I just wasn't sure, particularly when I saw it all kick off in the rearview mirror. This chopper cam angle will give us a better view of it. Watch Ruiz in the Porsche. There's the contact, and that's what causes the McLaren to spin. Then we see more cars ploughing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars involved in that instant, and then it gets even worse. Remember Dario Freschi? Well, his BMW clipped that dreaded curb on the inside. He loses control and careers into Christopher Bellamy. Watch Bellamy making a move up the inside. There's the contact from Freschi. He then loses control and ploughs into the number 1 car of Bartosz Jaruzelski. So incredibly, we've lost no fewer than 8 cars in one corner. What an absolute mess. Well, it looks like Simão Marquez was the only driver to make it through that melee unscathed. He's right on our tail now as we come through the corkscrew. Ruiz, meanwhile, he's dropped off a few seconds. He did make it through, but of course he came into contact with a couple of cars there. However, we're under real pressure now from the Porsche of Marquez. And we're in ninth, of course, because we got past Renfro in the McLaren before it all kicked off in turn 6. So even if we do lose a position to the quicker Marquez, he will still be in the top 10. Marquez is going to challenge out of the final turn. We're a bit wide on exit, get a little bit too much on the curb. That's going to cost us some speed. Marquez has moved to the inside, so he wants to make the pass here. And you know what? I'm going to let him have it. I'm just going to ease off the throttle slightly to let him tuck it in front of us. The reason for that is that we've still got nearly 15 minutes of the race to go, and we've got a 4-second gap to Rauch and the crew ahead. Now, I know that Marquez is quicker than me, so I think that I'll have a better chance of catching up with the pack of cars in front if I follow Marquez. Had I stayed in front of him and tried to defend that 9th position, I would have only slowed both of us down. So this way, I'm hoping the two of us can close in on that battle for 8th position. I tell you what, Marquez absolutely clouted that curb on the inside of him. Unless he saved it, he might not have saved it. He's all over the place. We have to take avoided action, and now we're back in front of him. Well, that certainly wasn't in the plan. I'm back into 9th, Marquez down to 10th, and this really isn't doing either of us any favours on catching Rauch in 8th. So maybe it's time to forget about the positions further down the track. Perhaps we're just going to have to concentrate on trying to defend 9th position from Marquez. We've made a little bit of time out of the corkscrew, but we turned it a little bit early into rainy curve. Oh, we hit that sausage curve. That's going to cost us big time. We were lucky to hold on to that, but that has allowed Marquez past for a second time. A big mistake there. Yeah, turn 5, Marquez walloped that curb on the inside. That sent him out wider on exit. He gets 2 tyres on the gravel, which almost causes him to lose control. I swerved to avoid him and take 9th position back, but then a few corners later, coming out of the corkscrew, it's my turn to rattle my teeth on a sausage curb, and that allows Marquez to tuck it back up the inside and regain 9th position. Yeah, that battle with Marquez and my subsequent mistake has proved really costly, because look at the gap to Rauch in 8th position now. It's almost 7 seconds. Behind us, Ruiz in 11th. He's now just 3 seconds back, so it's important that we try and keep the pace with Marquez here. And as I say that, we take too much of another curb. This time it's proved far more costly. The rear steps out. We've put it into the tyre wall. Trying to get going as quickly as possible. The engine had stalled as well. We had to restart the engine. We're going to get back on track, but unfortunately we've lost a bunch of positions. We're down to 14th. What a disaster. Well, it looks like my top 10 hopes have just disappeared. I got away with it when I clipped the curb on the rainy curve a lap ago, but I wasn't so lucky this time. Yeah, what a frustrating mistake that was. We were looking really competitive for a top 10 finish in our first ever Coach Dave GT3 sprint, but now we're down in 14th and we're more than 7 seconds behind the cars in front. I can't see us closing that gap over the final 11 minutes of this race. Having said that, there's a yellow flag out. Have we lost someone? There's a cloud of dust to the inside. And yes, we have. That's Vincent Kaku. So we've gained 1 position back, and we're going to gain 2 more because there's been another incident at the final turn. Unbelievable drama, just half a lap after we threw away 4 positions, and we've already got 3 of them back. This is the first incident. Watch the number 22, Vincent Kaku. He just clips that curb on the inside. That sends him out to the gravel, and from there he's a passenger. And then the other 2 cars also came to grief. We're riding on board with Papi Diddy. There goes Kaku on the left. Now Diddy just gets too close to the rear of Dale Rodman. There's another collision. They're both out as well, and that puts us back up to 11th. Now we're going to watch this from another angle. There goes Kaku. Now, if you remember earlier in the race, Diddy got punted out at this exact point in the track by Dario Freschi. Now, I praised Freschi at the time because he waited for Diddy to rejoin, so I'm going to give equal praise to Diddy here. He does exactly the same thing. It's yet another display of fine sim racing etiquette. We're going to rejoin the live action on lap 15. There's about 4 minutes to go, and as you can see from the leaderboard, I'm more than 6 seconds behind Ruiz, so I'm going to switch the TV cam on. Ruiz just going under the Cooper Tyres bridge. Now, on most laps, I've been taking a 10th or 2 out of Ruiz's lap times, but it's nowhere near enough to close that gap. So with a few laps left of this race, I'm really relying on Ruiz making a mistake if I'm going to finish in the top 10. So far, that mistake hasn't looked like happening, but we are getting to the business end of the race now, so let's keep our eye on Ruiz's cockpit. He's going to run it in a little bit high into that treacherous turn 6, and he has lost it, so our wish has come true. Are we going to be able to get past him before he rejoins? Yes, Yes, we are. There he is in the gravel. So we're back into the top 10 with a couple of laps of this race at Laguna Seca remaining. Yeah, most of the crashes at this corner have been caused by that sausage curb on the inside, but this was the complete opposite. He just ran it in too hot, and that's what sent him out into the dirt. And that's also what guaranteed us a top 10 finish in our first ever Coach Dave GT3 sprint race in low fuel motorsport. Absolutely delighted with that result. I was really worried before this race that the step up from rookies to the main series might have been a little bit too much for me too soon, but we've competed really well here and we've got 10th position. There's the classified results. And of course now we're out of the rookies class, we've got our own ELO and we've added 15 onto it by virtue of that top 10 finish, and we've also added 0.33 onto the safety rating, so a good day all round at Laguna Seca, really encouraging. And what was even more encouraging was the respectful racing on display. Sure, there were mistakes, but it was fantastic to see not one but two drivers wait for their opponent to rejoin after causing an accident. I've always said that that's the best way to apologise to your fellow sim racer if you do cause an incident on track. But thankfully none of those incidents involved me today. I'm relieved about that and I'm delighted with the result. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you on the grid again soon for the next one.